In order to deploy our application to Heroku, first we need to add our source code to a Git repository. Git is a very powerful version control system, so we can put our code in a Git repository and see how it's changing over time. We can look at the history of the changes, see who has changed what. Now, if you're not familiar with Git, don't worry, you don't have to be a Git expert in order to deploy this application. Just follow the steps I'm going to show you. But if you want to learn more about Git, you really need to take a separate course because that's an entirely different topic. So if you don't have Git, head over to git-scm.com. On this page, you can find the downloads. So get the installer for your operating system, install it. When you're done, open up a terminal window and run git --version to make sure you have installed Git properly. All right, now let's go to vidly-api-node. We're going to deploy our backend first, test it, make sure it works properly, and then we will deploy the front end. You could also combine these two projects and deploy them in one go, but that really goes beyond the scope of this course because I have to talk about some additional tools and scripts that are not very reliable and they break all the time. Also, take into account that in a lot of organizations, backends are built and deployed separately by a different team because you might have multiple front ends. One could be a web interface, another one could be an Android app, and so on. So that's perfectly fine to version and deploy the backend separately. Now open up this folder in VS Code. Here in the root of the project, let's add a new file, .gitignore. We use this file to tell Git what files and folders should be ignored. One of the folders we want to ignore is node_modules, because this folder, as you know, includes hundreds of third-party libraries. We don't want to check these files into our Git repository because this will increase the size of our Git repository. So add node modules and make sure to add this slash at the end because this will represent a folder. Now save the changes, back in the terminal, run git init. This will initialize a Git repository in this folder. Now run git add period. This will stage all our files to be committed to the repository. So next we should run git commit -m to specify a message like initial commit. So put the message in double quotes. Okay, so all the files except the node modules folder is now committed to our Git repository. In the next lecture, we'll deploy this application using Heroku CLI.